Welcome to another episode of Reptile Fight Club, where Chuck has just unleashed his inner mutton.
Yes, I have.
That was a good time. We were driving through Darwin. Nick was eating an ice cream cone. Well, an ice cream bar with chocolate covered. And a breeze went through the window and pulled a piece of chocolate off of his chocolate bar and slapped it onto
Mark Spataro's face.
Mark Spataro's face. Yes, that's correct. And Nick didn't notice and kept on talking. And Mark Spataro's like, really, man? Come on. It happened twice, so that was pretty fun. All right, I don't see any chocolate flying off your little treat there. But
I don't have a Mark Spataro to put it on right now, so.
It's true. It's true. Well, yeah.
So?
Those things.
Good?
So, yeah.
How about
really
you?
Good here.
Really
got
good?
Got a new package from FedEx yesterday, and I joined the club.
Which club is this?
I'm trying to be cool like you, man.
Still unclear in which way you are talking about.
Oh, okay.
You got to be more specific.
My pair of diamonds arrived.
Nice.
Yeah, they're pretty sweet.
Are you stoked? Tell me more. Tell me more.
They're really cool. They're from Terry Burwell, and he made some nice diamonds there. They look really good. The female's got some really nice dark color, kind of along her dorsal. Why can't I think? Along her spine, so kind of a dark around the lighter elements there. It's pretty cool looking. So hopefully that'll continue as she gets some size.
Nice.
So, yeah. Pretty stoked to finally be working with a pair of diamonds. Ben had some back in the day, and we worked with those for a bit, but there were all these rumors going around that Cypress Creek's diamonds were impure, and so we got rid of them, and then we found out later that may not be true, so yeah, who knows.
Oh, I remember those days.
I know, right? Everybody's trying to disparage everybody's animals because they don't look perfect.
Yeah.
Like the one picture in a book or something, But then when you go look at wild diamonds, there's pretty nice variability in those things, which is one of the reasons for the book, right? That was kind of, the first edition of the carpet book, I wanted to really highlight the variability of wild carpet pythons, and so I hope we achieved that, and I think we did it even more so with the second edition and included more diverse photos of wild specimens. Although it is kind of surprisingly hard to find wild diamond photos from outside of the Sydney area. Not many people find them, kind of further south at the more extreme extent of the range. So most of the pictures we have are kind of from a smaller area, but I think that kind of highlights it. I don't know. But yeah, I'm stoked. They're cool. I don't have them.
When do I get to see pictures
yet,
of they're still pretty little
right now.
they're pretty
little. They're juveniles for sure. Yeah. They've got a little size on them, but yeah, they're really looking good. So, and then I got another package the other day as well.
Jesus, dude!
I know. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just getting all these.
Okay. I'll bite. What did you get, Justin?
This is a legged reptile this time. I got a group of Beano's geckos or Binos geckos, however you want to pronounce it. They're an Australian species, so staying with the theme there. They are another parthenogen, so they lay eggs that hatch into more females, and so yeah, they're kind of cool.
So, nice.
I've been wanting to get those for quite a while, and I think Josh's frogs carried them, but every time I saw them at a show and asked them, they didn't have any. So I saw a group for sale on Morph Market and picked them up. So yeah, they're pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, looking forward to working with those. And then the collared lizards are doing well. My little office pets. I did give one. I got a trio, but I gave one of the females back to Brody because she was a little smaller than the other two, and she just was kind of like always hiding and looking like she was stressing out. So I'm like, yeah, I better just do a pair. So went with that.
Nice. There.
Yeah.
It's just funny because you got half of your face on and
What?
half off of the screen.
Oh, really?
So I was going
I
to
see my whole face.
I just
know.
move
That's
over to
weird.
match it. Yeah.
See, I see your whole face. Yeah, that's weird.
Ruby says hi.
Hey, Ruby. What's up? How's Pete Call doing? Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited to watch these diamond pythons get bigger. Oh, I got woma eggs too, so it wasn't the best circumstances. I was checking on all my gravid females, and there were eggs scattered all around the enclosure. So she didn't wrap them or anything. They were just kind of pushed off to the side. And there were only 3 that I could find in a slug. So I wasn't sure if she was for sure gravid. It was kind of one of those where I guess she didn't have many eggs in there. There were only 3. But I guess 3 is better than 0. So as long as they can hatch, we're outside she didn't wrap them or anything. You never know how much they desiccate, and that's kind of a death sentence for python eggs in a lot of situations. So hopefully the nest box that she was in had enough moisture to kind of limp them along, and they can maybe hatch out. But
Yeah.
blackhead eggs are still going strong. I did have one kick the bucket, and it was kind of the smaller, sluggy looking one from the beginning. It was
So maybe
kind of a long shot.
destined to be a bucket kicker.
I think so. Yeah. So it didn't surprise me. Let's just put it that way. But,
Okay.
so we'll see. Oh man, I was bringing the woma eggs in last night after finding them. I just put them in with the blackhead eggs because they're in a pretty good sized container, and I needed one immediately, so I just put them in with the black-headed eggs. So hopefully that works out. But as I was coming in the house, I had some pinky mice in my hands too, and so I was I was gonna freeze those down for later, and euthanized them. They were just sitting in my hand, and went to put them in the freezer and dropped one of the eggs on the ground outside. So it was like, man, I keep making really stupid mistakes, but what do you do? So we'll see if that one hatches after taking a little tumble and onto the driveway there. But yeah, one of these days I'll learn.
Some jobs are a little riskier.
Right?
Being an egg at Justin's house, risky job. Nah,
Don't want to be an egg around.
I
here.
mean, yeah, and especially because it's like you don't want to, like, of course, you dropped it outside, like, of course,
yeah, of course. That's where it's gonna drop.
Yeah.
I mean, it landed on some stuff, so it didn't like hit the cement. So hopefully, it kind of had a more gentle landing, and I knew which orientation it was in. So I don't know. It's already a bad situation. I'm just making it worse. But what do you do?
Consistency.
So we had a beautiful spring day yesterday. I actually got some snakes shipped out, so that was kind of nice. All the snow had melted, and everything was looking all springy and nice. And then this morning, so yesterday, like I was thinking, maybe I'll get another group of inland shipped out. And so, I had a bunch of people that purchased them back in the fall or winter when I put them up. I started going through my waiting list, and then I shipped some out on Tuesday, and then I'm like, I better get the others out, just while the weather's so nice. And then got the other 4 out yesterday. And then this morning I woke up to a couple inches of snow on the ground again. So we're just kind of back into it. But it looks like it's pretty much gone. I mean, there's still a little bit on the ground, but yeah, nice little Utah spring. So
yeah, you're definitely not safe in April
Yep.
in Utah
Yeah. Not that California was much warmer. We did a little trip, spring break trip to California, and it was a little chilly out there. Nice and windy, and we jumped in the ocean. We were about the only ones.
I called them and
on the
told them
beach.
you were coming. So
yeah.
I don't,
set us up with some weather to make us feel
right. I don't want you to feel like you're, being grossly gypped by living in a state that maybe doesn't have as nice of a climate. Just saying.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, your snow
really made us feel comfortable.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, it's like you're good. You're good.
That ocean was pretty frigid, but it was fun.
Dude, no.
There was another family down on the beach as well, and we they were kicking around in the waves too, and I walked up to our vehicle, and they were at their vehicle, and they were also from Utah, so the only people crazy enough to be out on the beach were from Utah, so yeah, good times.
It's awesome.
But
doesn't matter. Hey,
yeah,
whatever brings the Utah people together, and if it's California, if it can be California, man, I'm here for you.
It sounded like it was St. George, because most of the state went down to St. George to try to escape the weather, and it snowed and rained down there on them, so they did have a much better time than they would have up north. So yeah, good times. But we wanted to do a little last hurrah. The Super Bloom was nice though. We went up to the Poppy Reserve up in Orange County.
I mean, you don't have to say that I told you so, but I did tell you so.
No, I tried to kind of steer him towards Borrego just because I wanted to get out there and have a kick around in Borrego, but we didn't have a ton of time, so it would have been a little bit of an undertaking. As it was, I think we drove about 2 hours to get to the Poppy Reserve, but it was pretty. Those orange flowers are nice looking. We stopped at kind of it was almost like it was like a field, and I don't know if the poppies had grown there or if they were planted there. It looked like they were kind of invasive in some farmer's field, and he was taking advantage of it, or I guess he was just letting people check out the poppies, because you didn't have to pay admission or anything. So we just walked and took some pictures in the poppies for the girls. Had a blast doing that, and then I did sneak a little herping in. So after I
was waiting for it. I was waiting.
Right? I had to. After our 12-hour drive, I dropped the kids off, dropped all our luggage off at Trigg and Jenny's, and Anson was staying with them again, so we picked up Anson, and he and my daughter Ashley went with me. The other two stayed. They didn't want to go out again. They were tired from the drive. That sleeping all the way is pretty rough on them, So I drove another 20 minutes down to this spot that a friend shared, and there's a little board line. And now, in the past, I've hit this spot a couple times, and I haven't found much there. It's been really dry, like some dried grass and stuff, kind of low-lying. So, and there's a board line that somebody's put out there, and so we were, I've checked the board line a few times, haven't seen any snakes, and my friend was, that's a great place for cow kings. I usually see a cow king there, and I'm like, I've never seen a snake there. He's like, really? That's so weird. But I've gone, I guess, at the wrong times, kind of the drier times of the year. So this time I'm like, it's been raining a lot. It's nice and lush. I'm going to hit the board line, even if it means going right after the long drive. So I drove over there, and it was like a forest, man. The plant life was just almost, over my head, some of the flowers and stuff. And the downside was there were a lot of thistles, and so I'm wading through thistles, getting poked left and right. I pulled out a couple thorns out of my hand, when I got back after looking. But first couple boards had ringneck snakes, and that was my first wild ringnecks. I hadn't seen any in the wild, so these are the San Bernardino variety, and bright red tail, under their bellies. So up top they're kind of dull, like kind of brownish, greenish colored, and then below they just have these bright orange bellies that kind of fade into red as it gets toward the tail. And they'll do this little they curl up their tails and kind of flash that red at you as kind of a warning. So yeah, we saw 5 or 6 of those, and so that was really cool. I mean, my hands smelled like schwees, after grabbing a few ringnecks. But we saw half a dozen of those, and then it got dark, so we kind of got there right at sunset, so I didn't have a lot of time to look, and it was hard to find the boards in all the growth. You had to really search. It was kind of a little Easter egg hunt there for the board line. And then, so we went back at after sunset. And then it was kind of funny because I didn't tell my friend that I was going there. And then I see he posted some pictures of snakes that he found, and it looked like he was at the same spot. And so I messaged him, I'm like, hey, I got my first ringneck, and sent him some pictures like, oh, wow, that's crazy. I went there earlier today and got a cow king and a gopher. And I'm like, oh yeah, I saw your pictures. And so he's like, well, here's where the boards were where I found them. And so I went and checked those the next day in like at around noon or 1 o'clock. And sure enough, the king and the gopher were right there. So
no kidding.
Just right where he had found them the day before. So
there you go.
Yeah, I guess he didn't disturb them too much. And then I think he went back a few days later and found a couple more kings, and the gopher and the king that he found the first time were still there. So our two, interruptions of their daily comfort or whatever was didn't dissuade them from using that board line. So they were cool with it. But I don't know. I always wondered about that. If you disturb something in their home, if they're gonna not use that site for a little while or ditch it, and I imagine some species are more sensitive, whereas like a king and a gopher probably aren't as sensitive. But I did see a few repeats on the ringnecks the next day too. So I saw another 5 or 6. So all in all, we saw probably 12 ringnecks. My first king snake in California, California king snake. I did see a mountain king snake on that California trip we did with the NPR crew. Mm-hmm. But so that was kind of cool. And then the gopher was pretty nice. Had some nice yellow on it, pretty good size. I was kind of stupid with the king. I was trying to get pictures of it, right? And I was trying to put it under my hat or whatever. It kept crawling away, and then it crawled. I thought it was just going under the board line, so I'm like, I let it go, and I thought, well, maybe it'll coil up under the board, and because there's just so much vegetation everywhere. I lift up the board and it's gone, and then like where it went under the board, it actually went down this like gopher hole or whatever that was next, like on the edge of the board line. So I only got 2 kind of crappy shots of it before it took off. So next time. But yeah, it was a nice trip. Good to see Anson. Good to see Treg and Jenny. They're always fun to see, and their daughter Manya was there as well. So we got to see her and play some games. Treg's always a big gamer, so he had some fun games for us to play. But,
nice.
Yeah, Anson took the girls for a ride on his motorcycle, so they enjoyed that. But it was a fun trip. So. Yeah, is Ruby done playing with her?
I don't, dude. We just opened the new park box, and you give them so the toys are cool for them, but they basically, so it's mostly Ruby, but she jumps on it, she rips a hole in it, she pulls all the insides out of it, grabs the squeaker, shreds the squeaker into pieces, and then leaves it all on the floor and just walks away.
Yeah, you're like, that's some money well spent. Yeah. Destroys it in a... she is absolutely awesome. Preoccupied for about a good 45 minutes, and then after that, it's just cleaning up the kitchen. Yeah, cleaning up the corner of the kitchen. Yep. That's funny. We had our dog Annie. She passed away a few years ago, which was really a sad deal, but... she was such a good dog, but she was an outside dog, and it was kind of cold, and so Heidi made her like a blanket, like a little quilt type thing, and put it out there in her kennel for her to kind of cuddle up in. And she came out the next day, and that thing was just trash, like shredded, She just chewed it up and spit it out. That's awesome. She's like, that took me like 3 weeks to make. And we'd bring her in the house during those cold times, and she would just sit at the door and whine. She wanted to go back outside because it was too hot in the house or something. That's crazy. She loved it out there. Yeah, she'd go roll in the snow and stuff, but yeah. I miss that dog. I'm sure she appreciated the quilt. Yep. I'm sure she did. well, man, there's some pretty crappy news coming out of Florida, it sounds like. Those Fish and Wildlife that euthanized a snake that was not legal during their euthanization of a bunch of snakes that I guess were illegal. I probably should have read the story, but I just see all these posts going around. I don't want to see a snake being killed, so I didn't really open those. But looks like a kind of a black eye for the Fish and Wildlife in Florida.
I mean,
I don't know.
Do they even take black eyes?
Yeah, you never know. No, I think they do. I think this negative press is probably going to hurt them a bit, and they're probably getting chewed for it. I hope. But I remember there was a case in Utah, and it was Ryan Hoyer and his rubber boas. I don't know if you heard that whole saga where they confiscated them because one of their informants told them that he had an illegal locality, which he didn't. He had paperwork for everything, and all his stuff was above board. And they confiscated his whole collection, and they had like 30 days to make a case, and they didn't make their case within like 120 days, and just dragged it out. And he kept requesting his animals, and one by one they were dying under Fish and Wildlife care. And so he sued the state because they found no wrongdoing, and they returned like a handful of rubber boas to him, and the rest had died, and he was just furious, So he sued the state, and he lost the suit. So that cost him a good $10,000 or something, and it's just like you can't fight City Hall. They did everything wrong, but there was no accountability. It's ridiculous.
That's how
But they had to come do an inspection when I moved up to Smithfield and got my business license to make sure everything was above board with my facility and stuff. And they came in, and I asked them about that because they said, we need to make sure you don't have anything illegal. And I'm like, yeah, you check. I don't have anything illegal, but I'm just curious, what would you do if I did have something illegal? Because my friend got all his stuff confiscated, and he didn't have anything illegal. And they're like, oh yeah, we know that one. I mean, those guys got in huge trouble. A couple of them had to either transfer, one of them got fired, stuff like that. So, I mean, there were repercussions to the officers and the people that were in the, Fish and Wildlife at the time. So I think they gave them a little more perspective on how they should be conducting themselves in this. Because, they may not care about it, but we care about the reptiles, I see a lot of those memes going around like, if somebody killed a cat, the whole world would lose their mind. But just because it's a snake, only a certain number of people care. But it's the same thing. I mean, you're killing something for no reason. So they should be held to that same standard. But what do you do? Hopefully this will teach them a lesson.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wish I could say I'm surprised to read that, but I mean, I'm not, and I wish again, one of your strengths is your positivity and your,
Yeah. Well, that's what makes us a good duo, I suppose.
That's right. You're the yin, and I am the caca.
God. That's not where I thought you were going.
That's not where I meant to go. I don't know how it got there. Right in the crapper. Listen, well, she's brought it over here. She's like right behind me, just squeaking.
Play with me.
Oh my God.
With me. Yeah. I don't know. You about ready to fight after you're done?
I'm screwing around over here, man. Yeah, sorry, no.
No worries.
All right.
Do you want to introduce the topic, or do you want me to?
I want you to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this kind of arose from a little phone call we were having the other day. We were talking about morphs, and kind of like some of the morphs are very difficult to even see that they are morphs. You've got some that just kind of look normal or may have an additive effect to others, and some that are polygenic and some that are simply, inherited. So we thought, let's talk about, that in regards, mainly focusing on maybe not ball pythons, carpet pythons, because we know them the best, but maybe including some of the things that are seen in ball pythons, and because they're probably the most well established in regards to morphs. So, but yeah, we're gonna kind of fight about what does or what doesn't constitute a morph, or So we're gonna kind of take the side of everything out there that is claimed as a morph versus only a limited number of morphs are truly morphs. Does that sound like a good way to split it up?
You had me at morphs.
I know your love of morphs.
Morphs.
All right. Well, hopefully this will be a worthwhile topic, but I think it deserves some discussion. So let's go ahead and do the coin toss.
Oh, that's tails.
It is. Good job. You got your tails. What side do you want?
I want to be on the... I don't know.
Hey man, this is your suggestion, man. I thought you'd have it all ready to go.
No.
When you won your coin toss, you'd know exactly what you wanted to fight about.
I'll do that. Wait, how's it go again? Is it not all morphs or morphs, or wait, what?
Yeah, there's probably a lot of morphs that we could probably say are not true morphs. Or,
I'm on that side.
I guess it's kind of how you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna take the side of everything that they say is a morph is a morph. You can take it to the bank, man. Okay, so I assume I'm going first.
Yeah, I won.
That's not an assumption at this point. Okay,
you just.
I don't know why I even ask. I just think one of these days you're gonna be like Scrooge and have a change of heart. But buy a Christmas goose, Justin.
But that's for me to do, right? Like, so I win the coin toss. I pick my side after laborious, choosing, and then you just go. And then the one day you don't go, or the one day you go, and I'm like, Justin,
excuse me,
Justin, wait, I'll take this one, and you'll be like, oh, dude. Thanks so much. You know what I mean? So I have to wait. I can't you know what I mean?
Okay. I got you. I'll just launch from now on. Okay. So, I think, if you look at the definition of, what does morph mean? Morph is a shortening of morphological variant, right? So I guess, first of all, you have to have a standard look. Right. So I think with a lot of snakes, you can get kind of that standard look. California king snake, right? Like just a banded black and brown black or brown with, white or cream striping, not striping, but banding. Right. So, if you find a California king that has a longitudinal stripe instead of the typical bands, you could probably say, hey, look, a morphological variant of the California king snake. It's a striped animal. And so, from that perspective, anything that kind of deviates from the normal would probably be fair to call it a morph, right? Would you agree? Or I guess maybe you disagree, but I'll let you get to that soon. But so that's kind of what I would start with, is like just by the definition, anything that is kind of out of the normal would be a morph. So I guess technically, if they look different than the regular old version of that species, then it would be a morph. And so I think when things get difficult when you don't have like a typical look. Now, carpet pythons come to mind, right? Because carpet pythons naturally are variable. There's a lot of different colors and patterns and appearances that you can get, in a given population. And if you don't believe that, look at any, snake catcher group in like Brisbane, and you'll see a wide variety of different coastal carpet pythons that have pretty different looks. Now, when we have a limited gene pool or a limited captive, pool in the United States, because only a few made it out or whatever, swam across the ocean, then, you might have more what you think is a standard look, because that's what all the carpet pythons in the U.S. look like. Is okay, that's a coastal. It looks like this. But then you go to Australia and there's this huge variety. What's the standard? What's the normal looking one for you to say, oh, that's a morph? Now, if you see something like that's very, very light in color, it's, lacks black or it's albino, yeah, that's an easy call. Yeah, that's definitely a morph,
Yeah.
But I think there can be variations to what a morph is, but I think it kind of requires having a standard to deviate from, maybe. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would say is a morph is anything that deviates from the standard, but you have to have that standard.
Yeah, and that's
how I'd start.
That's kind of tough, and especially in my opinion with carpets, because like you had said, there's such variation in them. So the standard can be wide from, clutch mate to clutch mate, and given the fact that like specifically like the red gene in coastals, the caramel gene in coastals. And I even feel like the tiger gene sometimes in coastals makes such a kind of a tough go at it as far as like what is and what isn't. Like caramels, for instance, you can have caramels, you can have quote unquote super caramels, but I mean, how many times have you heard, where's the line between a caramel and, I'm not sure this is a caramel, maybe this is a super caramel, people can't tell. And that just doesn't sit. I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't sit well with me, or it's very hard for me to like, when you have these, in air quotes, morphs that don't have a very, a very defined or the edge of the phenotype is not as clearly defined. It makes it really hard. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
And I don't know. I guess tiger's one that really messes with me a little bit, because you can get people who have animals that have tiger kind of, they're striped, they're really striped, but I don't know. To me, like tiger has a very specific stripe in the way it looks and the way it is, and stuff that doesn't look that way isn't a tiger to me. But there's other people who would be like, nope, that's tiger right there. I can clearly see it. I don't know.
I think that term tiger has been kind of conflated with striped coastal carpet. Anything that has any amount of stripe, oh, that's a tiger. But like you said, I mean, tiger came from a certain line, that was that may have been naturally, somebody hatched one out or got, came out of the wild just with that nice clean stripe and kind of that lighter appearance or whatever. I guess I always think of that vivarium ad picture and say, okay, that's tiger to me.
Yeah.
And so,
exactly.
and again, it came from a specific line. And so, and that was probably, line bred, or as Warren would say, inbred, throughout the years to bring that phenotype out and kind of clean it up but it seems like you never really saw that many that had that same clean classic appearance that you wanted, So I think that gets tricky once you start outcrossing with, what you have available. Say or you try to breed it into other morphs, and you might end up with something that's not as great. And then the whole breeding, the jags to anything with a cloaca, as Chuck likes to say, you wind up with winding up with a bunch of intergrades, and then some of these are striped. They might have, now they're tigers. So
yes, exactly.
I think things get muddied up, and so I guess we need to make that distinction between line bred or a line trait. That you've, because I think, especially like a polygenic trait where it's not a simple mode of inheritance. It requires several genes to line up to have that phenotype. So, I think by definition it's a morph because it's a little bit different, that clean striping. You don't see that commonly or normally. So you would probably say, yeah, that's a morph. But, the mode of inheritance is probably the more of the the discussion from that point, because there were clear results of different breeding experiments, where tigers were bred to different animals, and some of the clutches had no striping,
right?
If you outbred it, so you could. It wasn't simply passed on like everybody assumed, because these tigers were line bred. So of course, they're going to have more striped babies if they're bred back to their sibling or something like that.
And so I guess that's kind of my issue.
Those genes.
That's kind of my issue with the whole polygenic, group of coastals that seem to be such an issue, because it's a quote unquote morph that behaves almost like a line bred animal,
but which is technically a morph, right?
But it's just one of those things where, yes, when you have red coastals, they're red coastals. There's very clear ones in there that you're like, yep, that's a red coastal born from a red baby. Caramels, very clear. Sometimes tigers, sometimes. Yeah, that's. I'm just.
Yeah. And that was one kind of where I went the rounds with Nick on, was the caramels, because there was such a diversity of phenotype. Now, I mean, granted, it was so tricky because, how do you differentiate if you don't have a genetic test to show, here's the gene that's mutated,
right? And
it displays this phenotype, and you say, well, I outcrossed it to these different females, and they shouldn't have had the color of the offspring or whatever, but I did see them here, and it was in the expected ratios. Well, what if that's just lining up the genes a certain way? And, that's why those kind of morphs that are very indistinguishable. I mean, nobody doubts like an albino, right? An albino is a clear, and it's a recessive trait, and so you can clearly see the difference between the albino and the wild type. Caramel is a little more difficult, and just the fact that they can't tell if they have a super or not until they breed it and produce all caramels from that animal. I guess having a super form, or being able to produce all caramels from a super, is evidence that they are incomplete dominant trait, because there is a super form. But I just kept thinking, is there another way to achieve those results without having it be a simply inherited trait? Now, Nick was convinced, and I think he kind of talked me into it as well, that is the case with caramels. Mm-hmm. But I think my reservation for those still is that you can't tell a super from just a single gene animal. It's really difficult to tell. So, and I mean, that's just gets into semantics, but
I get it. Like the Mendelinely inherited genetic traits, like genetically striped ball pythons. That is, a simple. I believe it's a recessive, recessive. Yeah. So
same with Brettles.
Yeah, and same with Brettles, right? Yeah. But then you look at stripes and coastals, like, oh my God, it's a shit show, right? Like, so
yeah. It's polygenic.
Yeah, so
more
like
than one gene is needed.
For me, the morphs are those animals that can Mendelinely inherit predictable traits, whether that's striping, hypomelanism, leucism, albinism, whatever, any ism that can happen to the skin. In this case, I think
what would be the bet? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. So like, striping, it's and kind of this melanism that is the red and the caramel. And I just think that, this isn't like a mutation that popped out in a collection. This is stuff that was brought over here, and it popped out because it's in their genetic pool. It's in their gene pool. These reds or these caramel looking animals, and we're selectively breeding these and that's why we're getting, but they're not necessarily, and maybe they are. I mean, maybe Nick's, got the incomplete dominant thing down with them or whatever, but it's obnoxious to have stuff that is considered a morph, but yet you're kind of like having to explain it away to people when it doesn't.
Or selling us possible super, for the same price as a caramel. Or I think it's more, it falls in with marketing, that's where it becomes difficult because, and I think the thing that also goes along with that is the negative byproduct of mutations in animals, like the kinked tails or the neurologic, inner ear issues that jaguars have, things like that, where you have negative consequences of making morphs, and some are lethal, like the super jaguar, you don't have those leucistic animals surviving. And so, and people want to make quick money, and that's why morphs are popular. It's, because they are cool looking. There's some really neat phenotypes, but we're willing to overlook, a corkscrewing wonky snake because it looks pretty, and so, and I don't know, that's gotta, at least in some regard, go back to their worth, their money, that what you can sell them for. Because as soon as they were not very expensive, then you had all these people saying, oh, we shouldn't be breeding these. These are not, but where were those people when they were, a couple $1,000s a piece or whatever? So
they were on Morelia Python's forums going, I think there's something wrong with these. They kind of screw around. Does anyone else notice this?
And Anthony Caponetto says
and it was just Anthony Caponetto in a sea of people with twonky jags going, no, there's nothing to see here. These jags do not wobble.
I get it when a project first starts, it's hard to know if that's a consequence of the gene, if that's predictable and inherited.
Yeah, but by the time that thread had burnt itself to the ground, it was pretty damn clear he knew the whole fucking time that those things were fucked up, and he never said anything.
But he's a businessman,
right?
That's
I feel like that's that's PC for something, but all right.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of lesser flashy or less flashy mutations. I always thought with the yellow belly, I was really. The yellow belly ball python, right? Breeding 2 yellow bellies, you can make an ivory, which is a leucistic snake, basically. But who would have called that, from those ivory or yellow bellies? Because they just don't look like anything. They look like a normal ball python. But somebody noticed there was some like yellow flecking on the belly scales, and so they bred 2 of those together and popped out an ivory. It's like, whoa. Same kind of thing with like the Mojave. They had a neat phenotype, kind of that incomplete dominant. The Mojave is a cool looking snake in its own right, and so people are all excited about that. And I think it was the snake keeper that originated those, and they didn't realize that there was a super form because they hadn't proved out the morph that far. And so all of a sudden they're selling all these Mojaves, and all of a sudden somebody pops out
I had a super Mojave,
leucistic snake. Yeah, they're cool looking.
They're cool,
and then those blue eyes and white scales. And then they were like, "Hey, wait, they're more expensive now because they have a super form, and like you can't put Pandora back in the box, right? Is that how it goes?
That's how that's the saying. And I guess
you let Pandora out.
I guess for me, like I look at morphs more of like stuff that has pretty clear boundaries, right? Like Mojave to Mojave makes a leucistic animal. So it's like, that's very like stark and very obvious. It's just like when we get into the murkiness of like, well, we don't understand how this works, but we're calling it a morph because we put a name on it. So, that's what we're doing. And
Yeah.
over
I think a lot of
time we'll
people
get enough
jump the gun,
information.
right?
I mean, and that's like saying if we do this long enough, we'll get enough information to make the decision that we wanted to make in the beginning.
Well, you can't expect them to wait to make their $1 million until they can prove it out. And nobody wants to wait around and sit on a pile of snakes.
Yeah, I just find it interesting that a lot of like the true mutation stuff that like we don't necessarily see coming out of wild populations, like granites and like zebras and like that stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of it has issues, right? But you don't. Yeah. I've never heard of issues with tigers or caramels or reds, because they're just color phases that happen in populations. They're not truly like mutated.
You mean they're morphological variants that pop up in natural populations?
I mean, you could say that everything is a morphological variant that pops up in different locations.
Except for the wild type.
You are a morphological variant of Californian right now, popping up on the internet.
I think there are some definitely morph projects that are marketed as morphs, like maybe like the blue lines in green tree pythons. You have a snake with a high amount of blue,
but isn't that just a change from the normal? And then isn't that what you said it was?
Yeah, I mean, It is a morphological variant, but that mode of inheritance is what is lacking, and I think that's where people go wrong.
But I didn't think we had a problem with that, because we're not exactly
sure. What I'm saying is, anything can be called a morphological variant if it's different from the normal, phenotype.
I agree.
And so if you have an animal like a green tree python that has a lot of blue markings, that could be considered a morphological variant. Now, I think the discussion lies in how predictable that is, or how that's inherited, or how that's passed on to the offspring. Obviously, with the blue and green tree pythons, it's not a simple mode of inheritance, and so you've got a number of genes that need to line up to make it look different. And now I think that was also complicated because people were creating hybrids. They were breeding the two different species, and I guess there's a few subspecies in there now of green tree python, which everybody kind of knows that if you make hybrids, you usually have some weird phenotypes in the hybrid animals. You look at a super ball or something, where you're breeding a ball python to a blood python, or angry ball, or whatever they call it. There's some pretty cool looking animals especially in the F2 generation of those hybridization events. But yeah, you mix two different populations that have split and differentiated from each other genetically. You mix those back together, and you're going to have some weird looking things like the sickness, or some of those other weird ball or green tree python morphs or morphological variants. If you're trying to get those, if you're trying to produce more of those, you're going to be pretty frustrated, because it's a lot of different genes that lined up in just that way to make some crazy looking snake. Whereas typically you're not going to have that. You're just going to have, the default, which is just a plain green snake. And so, which is completely beautiful. And I don't know why we need to make morphs of something as beautiful as a green tree python, but that's just my personal opinion. And of course, I like some of the aspects. I like to look at some of those things, but I'm not going to spend 10 grand on that animal, but I like to look at pictures. And a lot of those kind of have that crazy phase as a juvenile, and then they kind of lose out as we go along. So, as they are morphological variants, they're not simply inherited. And so that kind of upsets people when they pay a lot of money for the genetics, but the genetics are polygenic and are not simply inherited, and then they don't get offspring that have that crazy look, and they go, well, what did I spend all that money on? You know,
why, Justin?
It's like
are
gambling,
you saying
right?
that? Are you saying that sometimes genetics is poppycock, and that maybe
no, there's still genetics around it.
Yeah,
there's still genetic traits, but not simple genetic
but
traits.
Polygenic poppycock might not be a bad word sometimes.
That'd be a good name for a band. Polygenic poppycock. That's a good Czechism. I think that's where people run into problems is when they market a morph, where in most people's mind they think morph means I breed this to this and I get this. You know, I breed het to het and I get some albinos. Or I breed,
and I feel like
a Mojave to a Mojave and I can get a white snake at 25% of the time. On average per egg. So, yeah, I think that's what people have in their mind is a morph. And so then when you sell an expensive animal and say, hey, this is a morph, and then you breed it and you don't get more of that phenotype, you're like, hey, I want my money back. I got swindled. No, you didn't get swindled. You just didn't understand the mode of inheritance. It still is a morphological variant or morph, just not a simply simple genetic version of you're not going to get a simple inheritance.
Oh my God. In my head, there's somebody who's like, yeah, man, he told me it was this and it wasn't this. And he said that it just wasn't the correct morphological variant. What the hell is that supposed to mean, man?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand.
I just think that most people, like, when you tell them it's a morphological variant, and they heard it was a morph, they just have they have this and rightfully so. You should be able to predict a mode of inheritance. That's why there's a Punnett square, and that they've got very clear math. They did, that's why the math works on that stuff, right? Because it's predictably inherited.
Like you said, I mean, a lot of people try to get the money before they prove out the morph. Like I said that. Sure. A lot of people go for the sales and say, hey, look at this animal. It came from this animal. Look how crazy this animal is. Don't you want more like this? Aren't you willing to pay 10 grand? And I think that kind of pyramid scheme mentality led to a lot of disillusioned people, because they did, later on when the morph was proven to be not simply inherited, but needing several genes to line up. And so it was very rare to produce that phenotype. They were a little like, hey, wait, I was not informed properly. Now, I guess it's kind of a buyer beware scenario. You have to do your research and see, is it worth the risk? Do I want to take this risk? I was offered some of the first zebras that came in the country.
Do you see?
And it was obviously,
But do you see?
They did. Are you going to let me finish? No. Yeah. The zebras that first came into the country, we were offered those, and this was before we knew there was a super, right? So it was just the zebra pattern and stuff. And so I said, okay, that's worth the risk. And we knew they were, kind of a incomplete dominant trait where you'd get some zebras and some normal jungles in, when you breed zebra to normal. And so I'm like, okay, that looks like it's at least an incomplete dominant, or, some kind of trait there that's being simply inherited. And so, but then after we'd purchased them and we're waiting for them to come over from Europe, they found out there was a super form that was a patternless. Now, we didn't know the issues with the patternless necessarily at the time. I think a couple of them had little balls at the end of their tail, and so... But, then we had that information. So we bought it without knowing there was a super. But then when the super came along, it was like, okay, that's kind of a nice little bonus. But it seems like the supers are a little weaker than the zebras. And so I produced one super, but it died in the egg. So I haven't had a live super pop out. And I haven't done a lot of zebra to zebra breedings just because of that, and they haven't looked all that great. But anyway, that was kind of
yeah, they really don't do any. I mean, I kind of held out some hope for those things that they could clean them up and really get them really bright,
refined.
Just didn't pan out. Not really that.
But if I would have gotten that zebra and it would have, I bred it to something and I got no zebras, I would have been like, wait a second, I thought half the offspring on average are supposed to be zebras, and none of them are. I'd be a little upset. And, some of those early projects had some people like swapping out hets for normals, and so people would buy hets and get none of the homozygous morph.
Do you remember that when Anthony was running around just absolutely telling people that Tiger was a simply inherited? Remember that?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
that was a.
And to me, that's just
to burn me to the ground because I disagreed with him on that and said it was a polygenic trait.
Oh yeah, but he knew, like he was convinced. I guess that's my thing is like you almost have these instances where you're shown the true intention, and the intention was always to pass them off as a morph and sell a ton of them, and you couldn't get the production going because it's not a fucking true morph. It's a morph. It's a polygenic. It's not a morph. It's not. Stop.
Polygenic.
Stop. Just stop with the nonsense, man. It can be a cool thing. It doesn't have to be a.
I guess my point in doing that is to make people aware there's different kinds of morphs, right? You can have something that looks very different from the normal, but that doesn't mean it's simply inherited. That doesn't mean it takes one gene and you're going to get that look in the offspring right away. I mean, you could say the same thing for albino, right? If you sold somebody an albino and they bred that albino to their normal, then they wouldn't have albinos in that first generation, and they might be upset and say, hey, I bred this albino and I didn't get any albinos out of it. Well, it's because the mode of inheritance is a simple recessive trait. So you need 2 copies of the gene to express that phenotype. And you passed 1 copy to each of the offspring, not 2. And so you have to breed the hets either back to the albino or to each other to get that those 2 copies of the gene to line up.
And I guess
same thing with.
I guess I'll switch it and look at it from a different angle. If you're investing in morphs, or if one of the reason why morphs are cool is that you can predictably put 2 animals together and predictably get some reasonable ratio of morph to non-morph or, outcome, right?
Yeah.
But you can't do that with some of these like polygenic, you can't do that. So like and I guess at some level you could sit there and be like, well, everything is morph. I mean, at some level it's all genes, so it's all inherited. Yeah. So any weird little thing is, that's what I'm saying is I think that's a shitty little chintzy way to win your argument.
Well, no, I'm not trying to win the argument. I'm trying to educate that everything's genetically based. I mean, you don't have a phenotype necessarily that's not genetically based. Can you name a morph that is not genetically based? You know what I mean? Like there's some kind of the genetics drive the phenotype, right? I mean, maybe there's some kind of case of some weird mode of inheritance or what's it called? The non-genetic inheritance, where
epigenetic.
Epigenetic inheritance. There you go. So, there might be something out there that is epigenetic. We ought to have Ben on here. He could probably, educate us on all those kind of things. But if you're getting into a project, you should probably ask a lot of questions to try to figure out what the most likely scenario for the inheritance of this trait is.
Yeah.
And if you have a breeder that's not sharing that information, either they don't know it, they haven't done the work to figure it out, or they're trying to swindle you for money. I think another good example of that is the Macklots bred to a carpet, where the carplots or whatever, and then somebody bought the carplots and then just forgot to mention that they were a hybrid, and so everybody's like, whoa, look at those crazy looking carpets, I need some of those, and then they found out it was just a hybrid of a carpet and a Macklots, so people, and I think a lot of the big name breeders were fooled into thinking they were something special, and I think when you get that excitement or the dollar signs in your eyes because you're going to get a new morph or ground level of a morph and you're going to make all this money off of it, then, you're probably going to get taken some of the time if your focus is on making money. You need to say, wait, how is this inherited? And if they don't know, then you roll those dice. That's up to you. But try to get as much information as you can before you spend your money. If you're looking to get that morph, that different looking animal, because it could just be somebody spray painted a carpet python black and said, hey, this new melanistic carpet python, send me, $15K and I'll send you one. So then that actually happened. So, we need to be careful with your investment and be careful who you trust. And sometimes it's not a bad deal to wait until you're the, down the road a little bit from the people who first made it, because usually there is some refinement of the morphs. People will make them look better, and they also go down in price. So if you really like that animal for that phenotype, why not wait till that's all worked out and it's less expensive? But technically they're all morphs, but the mode of inheritance is the that's the important information. Now, I guess I shouldn't say that, because I've seen some things and I'm like, are you sure that they're calling this a morph? But granted, I haven't really looked into it much, but I'm just like, there's like how many million morphs of crested gecko, and I look at them and I go, these all look just like normal crested geckos. Like, I don't know what they're really kind of reaching here, Now, let's say the lily white, that's a morph, that's shown to be predictably inherited and in a simple recessive manner. So I don't know, I haven't really looked into that one that much either, but there are very few non-polygenic morphs in a lot of these things. And green trees seem to have that a lot too.
There's also a lot of bullshit where they're like, oh, look, a new spot on this fucking gecko. It's a new morph. We can sell it for more money. Yeah. That is going on. And I guess exactly what I'm saying is that I don't like my morphs dirty and all over the place. I like them neat and tidy in the box.
You only accept simple inherited traits as morphs.
If you do not fit into the morphological ratios that prescribed by Mendel, I, sir, cannot mess with you.
You and Mendel would have been great friends.
Yes. I understand him and his putting people in boxes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess buyer beware. Do your research. Understand what you're getting into. Think about how these could be inherited. And, if you have some weird variant pop up, or you get something, field collected that's weird looking, do your, that's kind of a long road, make sure that's something you want to do. Now, granted, there's probably a lot of people that sell dinker projects or things that could be morphs, and it, it is a lot of work. You gotta breed them to a few different unrelated animals. You gotta hold back the offspring. You gotta breed those back to each other or to the parents or whatever, and then you wind up with a bunch of inbred things. But you could discover that they are morphs.
So maybe I don't understand how these things operate, but could we start up like a dinker morph NFT? Is that a thing? Could we make that a thing?
You're way out of my area. I have no clue what constitutes a true NFT. I don't know.
Well, as I understand it,
I'm very fungible. I'm not non-fungible.
It's actually nothing that's worth something. That's how I've had an NFT explained to me, which would make sense that like a Dinkerball Python project could be an NFT, right? And it could be worth something, but really be nothing.
Now you're thinking, man.
And I have come full circle and pulled the two ideas together.
It's the next big money maker in reptiles.
Yes.
NFTs. Yeah. I have the original picture of that morph. It's worth more than the morph itself is, you know.
I think
I don't know.
I think Mutton Powerlifting Gloves was sponsoring that project.
Hey, we need to shout out to our sponsor.
Mutton Powerlifting Gloves.
Get more of every lift with Mutton Powerlifting Gloves. We need to get Nick back on here.
We do.
That would have been a fun discussion with Nick. He gets pretty passionate about proving out morphs.
Oh, I know. No,
yeah.
And I would love to give him the ribbing, especially in this discussion. So, you know,
yeah.
I love Nick, but
we need to think of another good topic for old Nick. Maybe we can always revisit this down the road too. But still waiting for that podcast, Nick. I've heard he's been recording some episodes, but I'd like to hear his stuff. You know,
gotta get 96 episodes in before we air anything.
Yeah, I feel bad we didn't get anything last week.
Lucas, it's time to release.
Lucas, release the Kraken.
Oh my God!
All right. Well, any cool reptile-related news or discoveries you've seen lately? I did a little diving in and looking for some literature revolving around reptiles, and there's some cool stuff out there. All right, you ready for this? What do you think? Did T-Rex and other dinosaurs like T-Rex have lips, or were their teeth kind of hanging out like a crocodile? You think they were more lizard lips or crocodile lips? What do you think? Or I guess you'd say crocodile no lips, because crocodiles don't have lips.
Oh my God, dude, stop.
Is that a good question?
Yeah,
come on, man.
Hilarious.
Dinosaurs.
This picture of this cool. T-Rex with these big ass lips, like duck lips. Like T-Rex in an Instagram.
That would be disturbing for sure, yeah. Oh boy. I saw a cartoon at this point, future fossil. Oh, I saw a cartoon that said future fossil, and it had like two like silicone implants and like these giant silicone lips sitting on a skull, you know, and the silicone implants were on the rib cage. It was kind of funny, but yeah. Okay. So what's your guess? What do you think?
I've got to go lips.
Lizard lips?
Lizard lips.
Way to go, lizard lips. No, yeah, a new study suggests that predatory dinosaurs such as Tyrannosaurus did not have permanently exposed teeth as depicted in some of the films. They instead had scaly, lizard-like lips covering and sealing their mouths. Now, it wasn't like mammalian lips. They couldn't snarl and show you their teeth, you know, and like a mammal, but more like a lizard where, you know, that covers the teeth, and you have to open the mouth to see the teeth, but when the mouth's closed, the teeth are not exposed. That's their latest thinking. That's kind of cool. T-Rex had lizard lips. Huh? No?
Nice job.
You're not excited by that. Come on,
where's
your inner kid?
Listen.
I know. I get geeked out by dinosaur stuff, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, let's try this one on you. Now it's a bird. This is bird-related news, but birds are technically reptiles. They discovered 2 species of bird that are poisonous. Is that cool or what? So their feathers have these batrachotoxins, and that might sound familiar if you're into herpetology. Where does batrachotoxin come up? Chuck? I'm going to quiz you here. Batrachotoxin. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. Batrachotoxin. That's found in poison arrow frogs.
That's what I was going to say.
Where do poison arrow frogs get it from? Do you know where poison arrow frogs get their poison?
Their diet?
Their diet, right? And so they found beetles in the stomach of these birds that have the toxin, the same toxin. But the birds have found a way to concentrate that toxin into their feathers. And they were the scientists who discovered it, like, described it when they were handling the birds, trying to get them out of the nets that they used to catch them. it was like cutting up an onion. So they're getting these fumes or whatever from the batrachotoxin in the bird's feathers, and then their hands would kind of get uncomfortably warm and kind of tingly or whatever. So yeah, poisonous birds. Isn't that crazy? I guess they have discovered poisonous birds before, but these are the first in a couple, maybe a century or few decades since they've discovered one. So one is called the rufous-naped bellbird, and the other is called the regent whistler. So be careful. Don't eat the regent whistler or the rufous-naped
don't mix them up either.
If you're cruising through New Guinea, which is where they're found. Isn't that cool? I don't know. Yeah. I thought that was neat that they can store that. Then the third one that I wanted to talk about was they've discovered an antibody that is pretty broadly protective. It's a human antibody, so they found this in people that neutralizes snake neurotoxins across a wide variety of different venomous snakes. So this might be something for our buddies over at Venom Exchange Radio Podcast. So
you hear that, Mr. Wolfie?
Listen up.
Do you hear that?
So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, it protects against cobras, mambas, king cobras, which are not true cobras, and kraits. So that's kind of cool that they can protect against so many different species of venomous snake. So they actually took a mouse and injected it with venom from a monocled cobra, I believe, and then they injected the antibody and they saved the mouse from death. So it was they could treat the mouse and protect it from death. So I guess I
feel like that's a positive way to say that they tried to kill the mouse.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're always that's what I do all day is infect mice with viruses and then try to protect them from the virus.
That's fair. I guess you should. If that's what you do, you take the positive side of that, right? That's right.
Well, I mean, that shows us that it's possible to treat somebody that's been bitten by a cobra, inject them with this antibody, and save their life. So it didn't work with black mamba venom. So it wasn't, but it did prolong their lives, so they didn't die as quickly. So there was some protection, just not full protection, and the mice actually died. But step in the right direction, and that's typically maybe a little difficult to see. Well, apparently that doesn't happen very often, where you have such a wide variety of protection from different snakes. Now, typical antivenom is made from like injecting a horse or something like that with some venom and then harvesting their antibodies, right? But there's a lot of new technologies coming along to actually discover human antibodies. So, I don't know, I think that would be really cool if you could vaccinate people to snake venom. How cool would that be? You'd be a lot more, easy going and herping, not worrying about lifting logs and getting bit by a rattlesnake underneath the log or something because you're like, nah, I'm vaccinated. It's all good.
Oh my God.
So, I don't know.
Think how sloppy
some cool new research out there.
Think how sloppy you'd get if you were vaccinated. Stuff. You already almost snap on them.
Well, no, that's why I want that vaccine, or at least have a vial of antibodies in my pocket. I can hurry inject myself. But I guess we kind of have that with the different antivenom. But if it's a human antibody, you're not going to have those anaphylactic reactions that you get sometimes with the antivenom, where you're allergic to the antivenom because it's made in a horse or some other species, and so your body recognizes that as foreign. But if it's human antibody, you're like, hey, this is I'm not going to attack the antibody. The antibody's going to attack the venom. So, I don't know. Cool stuff.
Cool stuff.
You don't seem impressed.
You're
doing backflips.
No,
come on, man.
Did I go nay? Did I go nay when you said horse? Yes, I did.
Okay, that's your way of showing enthusiasm. Is giving me animal noises.
Listen, just because I don't contribute the way you contribute doesn't make it not a contribution.
Okay.
See my artistry, please.
I'll take it. I'll look at it in the positive. All right. Well, good times. Anything else you want to throw out there? Anything cool you've listened to? I finally got around to listening to the rest of the Venom Exchange Radio podcast holiday show, and they gave us a shout out. They thought our discussion from the field with Dustin and Steve, that was their favorite episode of last year, so that was kind of cool. Thanks, guys.
That's
Gives
so
me
funny.
warm fuzzies.
I was so negative on that episode just because it seemed when we were recording it seemed so chaotic and like so. And then you listen to it and you're like, oh shit, it was totally chaotic and crazy.
But that's why they liked it, because they're like, they're like, hey, we were in,
I was convinced. I was
wasn't
convinced
that vehicle, but
I was convinced that whole episode was just trash.
Yeah, Eric was going to reject it and just throw it out. But it was like they felt like they were in the vehicle herping with us, because we'd stop and go, hey, we got to go see this rattlesnake. Push pause and come back. And so, I don't know. I had good memories. That was a fun one to do.
That was a fun one.
I don't think Steve was too excited. He was focusing on driving, so he's like, I don't want to sound stupid.
Steve was good. I think he was tired.
He did a good job.
I think he was tired that night.
He drove like a champ, man. He drove the whole time,
and back through California. They just, drove through horrible weather.
It was like marathon, man. Yeah. that was awesome. That was an awesome trip, though. What a great trip.
That was legit.
And Dustin's killing it already down there. Did you see that ringneck he found? I love the Utah and Arizona ringnecks. They're so nice, like that color that. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like kind of an olive blue color. It's really pretty. And then that bright orange and red and yellow belly. So cool. I'm jealous. I need to find one of those. I need to go hit up my buddy Sean in Utah and see if he'll take me out looking for those. He knows how to find them.
Nice.
But yeah, good stuff. I need to get out herping. That was fun to do a little bit, but I'm just itching for more. Got to get the weather warming up.
I know. I'm waiting for the weather to kick into high gear around here. So they just fed
Aspen and Chris. They're finding a lot of stuff down in St. George. I think they've already found a speck and lutosis, a few different lizards. They're already killing it down there. So
nice.
I'm itching to get down with all this rain and stuff. This is going to be a good season, I think. So yep, can't wait for May. That'll be a fun trip. Yep. All right. Well, any other cool things you've been listening to?
Boy,
you haven't hit the podcast stuff
much, I have not.
I did listen to NPR with Tony Hurt. That was cool.
Oh, did you?
I listened to it during work, so I was a little distracted with work. But I need to go back and listen to it a little better because he talks about diamond pythons, and he's got some really nice diamonds and some diamond crosses that are really spectacular, and some jags and other carpets. Man, Tony's got a killer collection. It's good stuff. He's a cool guy too. Really,
I gotta
nice guy.
I gotta listen to that. So I just fed my diamonds again. So but it's still kind of cold out. So still taking food. So.
That's cool. We should have come and visited you. It would have been cool to see your outdoor diamonds and your Tracy A.
You're always welcome, but
you got there.
It's okay. I understand.
I need to make it down.
I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have to look for cheap flights and just fly down real quick. Do a little quick herp trip and fly back.
That'd be cool.
It seems like plane tickets are too expensive.
They are too expensive.
It's crazy. Yeah, 2 Australia trips canceled because the plane tickets are too high. Although I did find a plane ticket for like $1,300, but that was from LAX, so I would have had to drive down anyway. But I typically do that anyway to save a few $100s on plane tickets. But anyway, shout out Morelia Python Radio Network, the Podfather himself. What a guy! What a guy! Thanks, Eric and Owen, and for all that you do, and it's good stuff. Good stuff. And yeah, we're happy to be on the network. Check me out at JG Julander on Instagram or Justin Julander on Facebook, and that's about where I am. Posting a lot of bird pictures. I found about 50 species in France, so I'm trying to get those pictures up on Instagram. So you might see a lot of birds lately, but I did post up those pictures of the cow king and the gopher snake, so and the ringnecks.
Do French birds think they're better than other people?
They stick their beak up a lot.
A lot.
There were some cool birds out there. They were pretty fun. So I saw a short-toed snake eagle.
Whoa, that sounds
I
fancy.
think that means they eat snakes, but anyway,
yeah,
they're cool looking. I only got a quick glimpse, so not the best picture. But. All right, well, where can people find Mr. Chuck Poland?
I am on
Chuck Norris wins.
Yeah, I am on that internet, and you can get me on the IG at Chuck Norris wins, and I'm just Facebook at Chuck Poland.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I have a website.
Yeah.
AustralianAddiction.com.
You do.
I do. I don't update it very often, but you can see the stuff I'm working with
better.
to some extent. Yeah, some are not active projects, and others are more active than some. And anyway,
some are more active than others.
That's right. Hey, you guys, thanks for listening. We appreciate it. We'll catch you next week for Reptile Fight Club.
Later, lizard lips.
Fight Club.